Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Talent Talk Live. My name is Nelly Valinden. I will be your host today, and I hope everyone is doing well. Do not hesitate to say hi to us in the comments and let us know where you're watching from because we always really appreciate that. As you can see, today I am with Pierre Deschamps-Savant, who's Product Marketing Manager at TalentSoft. Hi, Pierre.
Hi, Nidhi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What about yourself?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm really happy to be with you today.
I'm happy to have you. Thanks, Pierre. I'll be back to you in a second. So what we'll be doing today, Pierre and I will be talking about managers as learning catalysts. So we'll look at why the role of the manager is changing, how it is changing, and we'll also talk about what managers need to better facilitate learning for the people in their teams. Now, if during this episode you have any questions or feedback or thoughts that you want to share, please do so in the comments on LinkedIn because we are very happy to answer all of your questions during the episode or towards the end of it. Now, I think that is it for me, Pierre. I'm going to go back to you for a second because before we get started, perhaps you'd like to say a few words about yourself.
Yes, thanks a lot. So I'm Pierre Deschamps-Savant. I'm in charge of product marketing for the learning aspects at TalentSoft. And we are a group of four in the product marketing team. And we are in charge of understanding the market and the customer needs and be sure that we work closely with our product. So we answer to these needs by our feature, by what we develop. And also, we ensure that they are ready to be shared and on the market as soon as it's possible. That's our job.
Thank you, Pierre. I think we can actually dive in straight away now. Perhaps to give the audience a little bit of context, we can start with
Sure.
Why is the role of the manager changing? What can you tell us about that?
Well, manager have never been that important. I mean, than today, and for three main reasons. The first one is organizational. The second one is about the human being, and the third one is about all the disruptions we are facing. The first one is and I remember a study by Gartner we had in 2020 about the evolution that goes to less managers in organizations with less tasks, because most of their tasks, the tasks run by a manager, can be automated. We're talking about task tracking, management, expenses reports. And this specific report by Gartner was saying that an average of 69% of what a manager does will be automated by 2024. So in fact, there will be less managers for more automated managerial tasks. And we are expecting them to be more leaders. And their teams, in fact, they are changing because there are more skills, more type of skills, more profiles. And in fact, there are a lot of opportunities that are connected to that. It's not only addressing the business challenges, but building the best team for this. And talking about the flow of disruptions, it's true that since there are more and more new skills that are coming and more type of people, of profiles, there is in fact a problem to tackle. It's how you can upskill and reskill them, continuously. So that's a big challenge for the managers. So they have to deal with that. And that's, I think, the main reason why the role is changing.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah, so it requires, in fact, more humanity, more proximity, and we'll talk about that during this meeting.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Pierre. I'll give a quick recap. So the main reasons, if I understand correctly, that the role of the manager is changing is, on the one hand, there's this big wave of automation going on. So many of the tasks will be automated. And on the other hand, teams are becoming more diverse in terms of the profiles of the people in the teams and also in terms of their competencies. And then there's a third thing, perhaps, as well, and that is the fact that there's this need to upskill people pretty much on a continuous basis. Have I
Exactly.
put that? Cool. Okay. So I think then, of course, now we know why the role of the manager is changing, but what does that mean? What does that actually mean for that role of the manager? How does it change that?
Well, it means more skills for him, firstly. And when we talk about skills, it's empathy. It's also more engagement in changing things, because this manager knows what are his objectives and what are the team's objectives. But he is also the connection with the field. So it's really a topic of him, for him, to align all these gears, to be sure that the missions are tackled, but in a good way. He has, in fact, to keep in mind the team's objectives in also his objectives, but to rely on the team he has in a different way, I would say, not only seeing people as resources, but really as talents that is organizing and with more proximity, with more empathy, as I said. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I hear you say these things, Pierre, for instance, empathy, and also really, listening to the people in the team. So of course, immediately that makes me think about soft skills, among other things. So the question then I think that pops up is, how can we make sure that managers are equipped for this changing role? How can we perhaps train them for that? How do you see that?
Yeah, I remember we had a chat with OPCW, Steven, during our live web talk last year. And we need to take care of managers, and we need to train managers to be managers. And in fact, that's the first part, I think. It's first to talk with them, to discover what they are missing, and what are for example, the training, how to manage remotely. That's the first thing. That's the first example. So it's more related to what we are facing today, but also to develop their empathy, to develop also their organization skills, so that they keep time, in fact, such as one-to-one or specific moments with their team to address all those different aspects with their teams that are both personal but also professional. And of course, it goes with how they develop, because you can't expect your team to be the best or to be the more engaged without helping them and supporting them. And that goes with the first question you asked me about why is the role of manager changing, because we are expecting them to be leaders. And being leader is not a thing you do by yourself, but with your team also. I mean, you become a leader. So there is a lot of accompaniment. And why we are also talking about a manager as learning catalyst is because learning with development is a real lever to activate this huge change for managers to become leaders.
Yes. So, I mean, of course, today we are talking about managers as learning catalysts. So, and that means, well, actually, let's talk about what that means exactly, Pierre. What does that mean, the manager as a learning catalyst?
Yeah, in fact, when we prepared this meeting together, I told you that for me, catalyst is related to the chemical reaction. It is without catalyst, the reaction still happens. And when we talk about reaction, we talk about the way people are developing themselves to tackle their challenges. But a catalyst, in fact, has a lot of different aspects. First, it helps to speed the reaction. It helps also to direct in the good direction, and also to use less energy. I mean, talking about the chemical part, I think it's the same for the manager, because what he has to know is what are the objectives and what are the wills of the employees. I mean, what he wants to be, both in his organization, but as a human being. And to connect that with the objectives that the team or the organization is facing. So I think first, it's really important that the manager trusts the learning and development aspects to cover this path for the employees. And then, of course, he has to be really aware of and create an environment that facilitates learning and development. I think that's really the most important part of it. It's recognizing the need of it. Yeah.
Yes, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about creating that environment, Pierre. So to create this environment that facilitates learning better. First of all, I imagine this is not something that the manager can do by themselves, right?
No, it's true. It's a lot of exchanges, of discussion, and also to be sure that he has the information available for him. Because first, I think he has to know what are his team skills, and their gaps or their needs of development. So that's the first thing, and it's really important for him to have support on that. Then it's also important for the manager to know what is the training catalog and what is the offer, in fact, to be sure that he in this case knows what will be the good match between what is needed and what is available. And to be equipped also so that he can really accelerate the involvement of his team or his team members into learning. So I think it's really there is a support that is required, such as a platform, the one we are providing, and that will not be the only thing. It's important also to have the discussion and the continuous conversation between the manager, the leader, and his team members, so that there is a real match between this information and this technical support he has with the reality of what's the team facing during his day-to-day, during his field. So I think it's really important to have both here.
Yes, and so I'm wondering, do you have you come across examples of companies that have been doing this, and perhaps you can share an example of that?
Sure, we have, for example, a huge French company, Total, who in fact is really asking and helping the managers to speed up the training registrations for their team. So they know exactly the budget they have for their own team. And thanks to the TalentTalk learning platform, they have a list of all the needs that have been registered by the employees, by the learner himself. And the manager by himself can click and select if and for what reason the training is accepted or rejected. And so it's a bit like the learning and development manager is supported by the actions on field by the manager to be sure that there is this real connection and somehow also the commitment between the employee and his manager, that this specific training is really related to something faced by the employee, and that the employee will do his best also to go to the end. Plus, once the training started, it's important also that the manager and the employee continues their conversation, and with this example for Total, for example, they can also know where the team, the progression, the status, if they validated, if they succeeded on those training, so they can cover what's missing, for example, or what has not been understood. So there is, in fact, the reality, the on-field reality of what the employee is facing, what his manager knows, why he has registered or helped the training registering for this specific person. And at the end of the day, the important is to be sure that this employee tackle the subject. So what's missing can be covered by coaching or by additional training by the manager.
Yeah. So Pierre, now you've mentioned, I've heard you mention now a few times this continuous conversation. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that. What role do you think that continuous conversation plays in the manager being a learning catalyst?
Well, I think that's really the key part of what we are facing today, and the mean of training and development. In fact, the manager is really and especially during this phase, the COVID and the lockdown, where we had, and that's also something we shared with Steven during our live web talk, but the fact that all the teams had to redefine their priorities and their objectives. So they had to say, okay, now I have to take care of my family. I have I'm at home. Things are changing fast, and I had to do my job differently. So they had, in fact, the managers to really connect directly with their team and say, okay, now let's have a window of what you're going to do for the three next weeks, and let's have some continuous points, one-to-one or or it could be daily. Also, we had some examples, especially at TalentSoft, where we had some daily short meetings. But I think this continuous discussion, and we also have a great product for that, for the objectives and key results. A continuous conversation was a good answer for the teams and the members to be aligned with what was expected for them, and how the training and the learning and development part was addressing those needs on very short slots. They could analyze, in fact, and it was a good answer with what we were all facing, especially at OPCW, how training was answering some dedicated need at a specific moment.
Mm-mm. Thank you, Pierre. I'm going to go back to the audience 1 second, because I have 1 or 2 questions left for Pierre, and then we will have time to answer some of your questions. So again, do not hesitate to share them with us in the comments. So we'll get to them towards the end of the episode. Pierre, there's one other thing that I'd like to talk to you about, and that is the relationship between the manager and the people from the learning and development team. Now, with the manager becoming more of a learning catalyst, how do you see this relationship between managers and people from the L&D team? What needs to change?
What needs to change? Well, that's really something important, and we've been talking about that for months and for years. But it's important to underline the fact that there is a key role for the manager, because in fact he's in the middle of the way between the learning and development team and the operationals, because he knows what's expected. He's some kind of a learning and development business partner. The way he's also the L&D is a business partner for the manager. Sorry, the way he is also a business partner for the recruitment. If I take the example of recruiting, when you are managing a team, you know that you need to tackle new missions with specific skills, and when you are looking for this talent, you work closely with your recruitment manager to be sure that you find the good person. It's the same talking about learning, but it has to be in both directions. And there is a need, as I said, for the manager to understand and to be sure that the learning will be a good support to tackle the new challenge he has. But he has to be on both directions. He has to know, the manager, what's available in the training catalog, but at the same time, he has also to give back to the learning and development team is the feedback on field. Was this training efficient? Did my team like it? Was it tough? Are they missing some information? And really important, I think the people on field are kind of sensors also of trends, and especially on industries such as the software industry, where you have new development languages, for example. We have some customers in this industry. Well, in fact, sometimes it's the operationals that know first what are the new languages. So what are the skills? What are the trainings that are necessary? So if the manager understands that he has a role to play detecting those new needs and analyze that and give the results back to the learning and development team, it will be a good way to work on those both directions.
Yeah. Thank you, Pierre. All right, I'm gonna shoot straight away with our first audience question that's coming from Camille Borel. And the question is, don't you think that this is also a matter of human resources and trust? Meaning that the new manager should be very open-minded and skillful.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, the learning catalyst is just a part of his job. It's a big part, and we are talking about that today because we focus on learning. But there is and turning managers into leaders involves, as you said, exactly, more open-minded and skillful, and somehow and that's a good moment. We talk about the trend. We had a discussion about at the very beginning with Gartner, the fact that a lot of the manager's tasks will be automated. So there will be a lot of time for managers to develop their own skills, to be open-minded, to be more connected to the reality of what their team are facing.
Yes.
Learning is just a part of this change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think we haven't touched on that, but I think, of course, it's very important, as with many other things, that managers set the right example. So, and that goes as well for, of course, learning new skills and being open-minded as well. So thank you for that.
And you, I mean, you were part of the HR of the 2021 HR trends that we shared about virtuality, humanity. All of this is also, of course, important for the managers, because managers, I mean, by themselves knowing they need to develop their own skills to be leaders, that we and trusting the training actions to answer to this need will also help them understand how learning and training can help their own teams.
Yes, definitely. I've got another question here, Pierre. It's coming from Joe. And the question is, what are some ways that managers can create a culture of learning in their teams? Now, I think I can start with this one. First of all, of course, it's not just up to the managers to create that culture of learning. I think there's a very big role for HR to play here, and for pretty much everyone in the organization to create really this learning culture within the organization. However, as we are talking about managers, Pierre, what are some ways that managers can indeed create this culture of learning in their teams?
Well, I would say that the first answer is to trust learning to address real challenges that are faced by their teams. That can be addressed by both soft skills training or hard skills training. I mean, since you trust as a manager the way that training can answer this need, you are putting the first coin into the machine, I would say. And then it's to facilitate this real motion between all the different members of the teams, so they can also during the team meeting or during their own discussions, conversations, chat about how some specific training helped them on developing their skills. And as an example, even yesterday within our own teams, I know that Laura, who is part of the product marketing team, is being involved in the culture project, where they are analyzing the different profiles of people. And she was in this training, and she shared with us like a few words, a few drawings. And I think this you have a good proof as a manager that the learning culture is coming when your own team members are exchanging about what they had as a training, what brought them and what helped them. So that would be, I think, the first coin has to be inserted by the manager, and then he has just to rely on his team members to show what were the real aspects. But somehow, and that's the third part, in fact, it's to be sure that there is a feedback at the end of the day to the team who is in charge of learning and development. Because if they don't have any info on what's going on, if it's good, if it's bad, if it's answering properly, and that can be both some exchanges by email between the manager and the learning and development manager, but it can also be, as we have in our learning suite, the possibility to have satisfaction and effectiveness surveys that are directly inserted within the training courses. So at the end of the day, for the learning and development manager, they can really continuously improve the training offer with the on-field feedback that come from the operationals.
Yeah, thank you, Pierre. I see that in the chat, actually, Sebastian is also adding some other ideas for Joe. He says, what can help as well as time for personal projects, creativity from your team for new innovating projects. So that's some input from Sebastian there. Yeah, I think that is. Did you want to add something, Pierre?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was thinking of the transversal projects, as Sebastian said. Nothing better than transversal projects or personal projects to enhance creativity for these teams. And yeah, totally. I mean, when the manager is evaluating his team skills and where he needs to bring them in the future for the new challenges, it doesn't have only to focus on personal and on individual, but also on groups. And imagine how some people's skills will benefit to another one in the team by putting them in a collaborative project.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think there's one very active participant in the chat. That's Renas Dilevka. Sorry if I pronounce your name not correctly. But I do think that there's a very interesting point here that's important to mention as well. That is that it's important to, of course, as a manager, listen to everyone in the team and to make sure that comes back, I think, as well to this open-mindedness. Listen to everyone, especially if people have, of course, more experience on a certain subject matter than you may have as a manager, and that it's also about delegating the work to the right people. I think these are two very valid comments as well, Pierre.
Sure,
Perhaps.
sure. That's humility somehow. Yeah. That's humility, knowing that you are not, as a manager, the perfect man, and that's for some people of your team can be more skilled than you on some aspects.
Yeah, definitely. That comes back to the humility as well, to be humble as a manager, right?
Exactly.
Okay, Pierre, I think we have, there is one last question, and I'd like to ask a question to the audience as well. So in one word, the role of the manager in 2021, and then I have four options for you, Pierre. So we have the manager in 2021 is mostly a coach, a manager, a learning catalyst, or perhaps all of the above. What would you say, Pierre?
Well, basically, I would say, because it's the name of the presentation today, that it's learning catalyst, but I think it's not the good answer, because learning catalyst, and we had one question during this discussion on the chat about open-minded and accompaniment, and I think the good answer is coach. I think it's really learning catalyst is a part of coaching, and a manager or a leader doesn't have only to be sure that the team is trained for their missions, but also that as an individual, but within a group, this member feels well with the way he's having his personal life, but also is as a plan, a job plan, where he wants to go, where he wants to be in the future, even outside the organization. So I think in 2021, we really expect the managers to be more coach, but all of the above is also a good answer, I would say.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I see in the chat seems to be a little bit on fire, which is fantastic to see. I see that actually Francis is actually giving a very nice description. He says, the 21st century manager is someone who has left behind the characteristics of the boss and the owner. He or she is someone who leads, inspires, motivates, sets an example, empowers, and creates vision. I think that is a beautiful way, Pierre, to wrap up our discussion this morning. What about you?
Yeah, I totally agree. And maybe next time, let's invite Francis to join us. Yeah, it's true that sometimes we expect, the product, the chief product officers, for example, to have a vision. But somehow, if we want to have also agile organizations, we also expect, of course, the managers to have a clear vision for their teams and for their team members, and to be sure that it's connected also with the objectives and the challenges of the organizations. I mean, the manager or the leader has a real importance to connect all this, to be sure that everyone goes in the right direction, and in a direction that has a mean as an interest, of course, for the team members. Yes,
absolutely. I see that Francis would love to join. And he said one last thing that's interesting as well. And then I'm really going to stop, because we can continue doing this for a while, I think. But he says, hire for attitude and not for skills. I think that's a good one as well, because, of course,
sure.
The skills you can develop, at least most of the skills you can develop.
And I think there is a quote, I don't remember the name, but the analphabet of the 21st century will not be those who don't read and understand, but those who can't learn how to learn. So there is really an importance to, because I mean, skills is something that you can acquire. I mean, hard skills, and they change frequently. I mean, we know that 40% of the skills of today will be changed by 2024. So when you hire someone, of course, you have to hire him for his attitude, for who he is, and how he will be also within the team, and not to oversell too much our roadmap for 2021, what we are delivering in terms of products, but we will be connecting skills with training actions in our catalog, and we also expect our skill services to feed all of the different processes within the TalentSoft suite, from the recruitment to the evaluation of performance and skills, of course, and training, so that skills is at the center of everything.
Thank you so much, Pierre, and also thank you so much, everyone in the audience, for your super active participation and your great questions. Thank you. We'll share a few links in the comments for further watching and further reading if you're interested to learn more about what Pierre was talking about, OPWC and the role of the manager, and we'll also share more watching or reading about the HR trends that we discussed. So that's it for us. Thank you so much again. Have a really nice day, and we hope to see you soon for a new episode of TalentTalk Live. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.